Thank you. So this is very important, getting the word out to the community, so I appreciate the members of the media who are here today to help get the word out to Ohioans to hopefully take advantage of this amnesty program during this time period. Before we move to questions, I'd like to recognize a few of the members of the Tax Department staff who are here and have responsibility for the amnesty administration of the amnesty program. First is Marge Cruz, my Deputy Tax Commissioner for Compliance and Audit. Todd Tisco from the Compliance Division. Where is Todd? There's Todd, thank you. Tony Linda Sutton, overseeing the individual taxes that are paid, that are part of amnesty. Thank you for being here. And Lisa Steenberg Menzo is handling the business taxes as well. Lisa, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Questions?
Could you give us like a real-world example of how much someone might save? I mean, say I owed $1,000 in taxes from like 2008 or something. What would I have to pay if I was paying full interest and penalties, and what will I pay under the amnesty program, or some kind of example like that?
Yeah, I don't know if I can give you an example off the top of my head, but the penalties vary depending on the tax. The interest payment right now is 3%, plus the federal short-term rate, which is actually at 0 right now. I don't have a calculation. We haven't worked up a calculation in advance. I didn't.
It depends on how many periods, because the interest rate changes
each year.
Right, and there is a different penalty structure depending upon whether you didn't file a return at all, you filed a return, just didn't remit, the length of time between when your obligation was due and you actually notified us. So it's a varying.
Do you have like an average number of what people saved in the last amnesty program, or just something so people could put an idea what this means?
I understand the question. I don't think we have.
No, but I'm sure we can put something together and get it to you.
Okay. I'll do that.
I'm sure it's obvious to you, but it may not be obvious to other people. So I wonder if you could expand on this idea that the advantage to the department and the advantage to the state treasury is that now you get people on the rolls from now on, and you can just expand on that?
Sure. Yeah, Bill, I think that the point you're getting at is it isn't just a one-time situation. It is this time period, and it has brought revenues into the state and the locals in the past. But one of the things this helps us with is education. It helps us with educating Ohioans about compliance. You know, what they are, what the process is like, getting registered, becoming part of the process, just like all the other taxpayers who are timely filing and timely and paying in full. So it helps the state and helps local governments by having them be part of the process and moving forward in future years. The amnesty programs, again, it's a forgiveness thing. It's a way to get people to come forward. They may have made honest mistakes. They may have underreported something, and they're not quite sure what to do with it, or they're afraid of the penalties might be severe and so on. And this helps to ease that. But also, again, as you see point out, Bill, that again this has long-term impact because these Ohio individuals and businesses are now part of the tax-paying process, or maybe more fully so, as the rest of us are.
Can you make the case that the state makes money on this because even though you're giving away some interest and some penalties, in the future you make up for it? What can you say about that?
Well, it may, except for the last part, in terms of future making up for it, it goes back to people remaining current on their taxes in the out years. I mean, I suppose that's where that falls. But we see the data from previous amnesty programs, so we know that it brings dollars forward for state and local governments that may have been missed in the past. I mean, if they're not picked up on audit sometime in the future, then they may go unpaid, indefinitely. So it does go back and capture that as well. But I think that's the main thing, is that they're aboard the process, they're into the system, they have been now paying, hopefully brought things current, and doesn't seem maybe quite as onerous to stay current, rather than trying to catch up. Yes.
From what you have here, it says, so if you've already caught someone for underpaying or not paying,
Yes.
they're not eligible. You've already sent them a bill.
Right.
But is there a population of taxpayers out there who you know they owe money, but you haven't gotten around to actually auditing them or billing them yet? Or are you just counting on people you don't know about coming forward?
It's going to be those that we don't know about. I mean, there's always stages of things. You know, again, a tax discovery process in which perhaps certain parameters may indicate that this might be a place to go look. But so those things are ongoing all the time, depending on sort of where they are and what stage they're in that process. It's at a relatively less known point, I suppose, until it gets to front and center. So there's always going to be some of that because it's ongoing. But at some point, once we have provided some kind of notice, notified them, let alone if they had been under audit or something in the past or were assessed for an underreporting for that type of tax for that time period, then that's what makes them ineligible. But it can be other things. You know, there could be other tax obligations from the same individual, the same firm that we did not know about, that they might come forward and say, well, let's put this into the amnesty program. So we want to try to give the people the opportunity to bring all these liabilities current for the benefit of all the taxpayers of Ohio. I mean, if all the rest essentially are current and paying in full as timely as they should, then we think that's the right thing to do for all citizens.
What tools do you use to find those people? I mean, people might say, well, you haven't gotten me yet. You don't know about, maybe you don't know about this. Maybe you won't find out.
Well, we may not, I suppose. I mean, it is possible you can stay under the radar indefinitely, I suppose. But there are more and more sophisticated software systems that will use certain parameters and so on to determine that here's a likely place or matchups between state filings and federal filings, things like that might indicate that there's a potential underreported tax here or there. So the technology is larger where it's moved to over the years, and so the technology gets more sophisticated, and so that it's able to discover, if you will, tax liabilities and potential tax liabilities that might have been missed more readily in the past because they were much more manual processes.